Alright guys, welcome back to some more of The Great Ace Attorney 2. And we're finally back in court again, so I'm pretty excited. And hopefully we get to rectify everything and save a good innocent man known as Hairbrain, you know? So we're gonna see how it goes from here, guys, and, well, let's just get to it. Alright guys, and we are back. Oh, we're going with the witness testimony already. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Asman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and then crash headfirst into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow. A body double? That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something has moved when in reality it hasn't, it's a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point in the performance. But would I be right in saying you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Asman had no twin siblings. It's my understanding that this witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness. But such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims. Namely, the construction of what, by all accounts, must have been an extremely complex scientific machine. Whatever do you mean? Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber. Indeed it did, my lord. As a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring know-how. Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic. But crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any academic in the field. Investigation of the witness's worship attests to that claim, my lord. As evidence, the police found this Royal Society trophy for young talent and science there. Yes, that's true. We spotted it there ourselves. If our hypothesis is sound, it can always be forged into a physical manifestation, with sufficient skill. Though I may have sold the secrets of some deceptive wiles to sniveling talentless scientists in the past. Would you therefore assert that the explosion of the machine was an unfortunate accident? Or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by misuse of the science? Counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Asman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and then crash headfirst into the crystal tower. Okay, wait. We have a birdcage, don't we? Hold on. Let me check something. Yes, can I examine it? Alright, let me see something here. Oh, broken. Oh. Ah, look here, Mr. Sato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height? Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying, down into the crystal tower below. A fall of about 30 feet or 9 meters, leaving the man inside tragically dead. Okay, the details have been updated. Okay, and let's present it then.
Objection!
We've examined the birdcage that crashed into the Crystal Tower ourselves. As you can see, the cage, which is a wooden construction, has sustained damage in one particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell some 30 feet into the glass of the Crystal Tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely. I agree, the damage itself is entirely understandable. What doesn't make sense is the location of that damage. All the breakages in the wood are at the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying? That's the opposite of where they should be. That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was at the scene is damaged at its base. So we have reports of the birdcage falling headlong into the Crystal Tower, yet the damage is at the bottom. The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept that there were two birdcages in play that day, which were at some point switched. Switched during what wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery. Gah! Ugh. Good gracious, explain yourself, witness. Well, if we examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage in the base of the birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed tail first into the tower.
Objection!
But multiple witnesses' reports claim it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to a balloon flying over the stage, following a spontaneous explosion, at an altitude of some 60 feet above ground level, which is approximately 18 meters. It then proceeded to fall some 30 feet into the Crystal Tower in the ensuing deflagration. Witness reports amid such chaos are notoriously unreliable.
Objection!
But the victim's neck was broken.
Objection!
He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However, he fell. It would be unsurprising to find one or two of his vertebrae crushed. K. A riveting scientific analysis of events from the prosecution there. Though, to be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only one vertebrae, actually. Vertebra. He wasn't quite for long. Oh, hold on. I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Van Zieks. This witness is clearly a swindler and one who would deceive a personal friend of his. If you're going to establish this deception, do it right. Sorry? I feel like that's the undertone here. Ah, yes, there's one more point. Go again. The defense appears to have forgotten. It obviously wasn't a trick, as certain truth very plainly demonstrates. What? It seems to me that the cross-examination had better continue until we resolve this matter. Mr. Drebber, will you amend your testimony with details of this truth? Of course, we must treat the matter scientifically, after all. I nearly had him there. This guy here doing the robot. Love it. The kinesis clearly took place because there's nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from. Okay, hold on a second.
Objection!
This is a diagram of the experimentation stage and its surroundings. We know that somehow the birdcage appeared in mid-air before falling down to the Crystal Tower. A fall about 30 feet or 9 meters. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there is one other possible location from which the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet. No. Well, it appears the defense has a possible explanation to put forward. Go ahead, counsel. Yes, my lord. You will indicate the place to which you are referring on this same diagram. alternative location from which the birdcage could have possibly fallen the requisite 30 feet. Over here.
Take that!
The place I'm referring to is here. But that's where the birdcage would have been to begin with. Which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage was in the machine on the stage. But what we must also consider is the height of the stage itself. Go on, Counsel. It turns out that the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram, in fact, you'll see it's about the same height above the ground as the balloon was above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. At that moment, the floor of the stage gave way, and if we assumed there to be a void underneath, this birdcage and the one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Once again, my lord, this all points to the fact that there was not one birdcage, but two.
Objection!
My learned friend has no evidence that the stage had such contrivance in its design. Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment to look at the photographic print of the scene following yesterday's explosion. Good lord, the metal grill that formed the floor of the machine is undone. Yes, most likely blown open by the force of the explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated immediately. Mr. Drebber, it was you who built the kinesis machine, which means that it was you who built the two bird cages that were used to carry out this deception. Whether Professor Harebrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference, because it's the construction of this machine that matters, a machine designed to take Mr. Asman's life. And laid the blame firmly at the professor's door, something that could only have been carried out by you, Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Objection!
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. If my learned friend has reached the end of his wild assertions. Such a waste, man. The prosecution would like to crush the defense's argument slowly, but surely. What? Your argument fails to hold water. On 2 counts. 2? Firstly, before and after the experiment, this witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine. Every relevant member of staff from the exhibition has attested to that. And I believe members of Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty at every public experiment. In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the alleged pair of bird cages.
Objection!
But I've already explained why he wouldn't have needed to. The nonsense with the crossbow, that doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from the stage and the man who crashed into the tower are one and the same. The forensic investigation team's report is unequivocal on that point. And the second flaw in your assertion is a distinct lack of motive. Why would this man have wanted to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so. A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself? I have here a contract provided by the witness. What contract is this, Lord Van Zieks? The contract into which Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Asman, it reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income. 30%? Certainly very favorable contractual conditions. But there was one very important provision promoted into that clause. What provision? Mr. Drebber may only uphold this right on condition that both contracting parties are alive. In other words, if either of us were to die... And I passed that again, hold on. The contract would become null and void. So you see, I had nothing to gain from Mr. Asmon's death. The diametric opposite, in fact. Need I say more? The witness had neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done as you suggest is nil. It seems the defense's assertion was somewhat wide off the mark. Lord Van Zieks, you will submit the contract as evidence, please. Alright, we got that now. It's true. If Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage with the one in the Crystal Tower, he couldn't have done it. And in any case, I have no idea what his motive might have been. There's one aspect of your argument that still holds true, however. There were two birdcages. The prosecution is unable to deny that. So I'm sure you're on the right lines, Mr. Naruhodo. And I have no doubt there are other aspects of your assertion that are undeniable truths too. Well, it would seem that the defense has no rejoinder to offer. Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I came here to testify about the machine I built and instead my reputation is defiled. But the prosecution's counter had set the record straight, I think. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection!
At the beginning of this trial, we believed that there was only one birdcage. Yet now we know there must have been two. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit. Get to the point. The stage demonstration was constructed and set up in its entirety by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. So, if circumstances mean it's impossible that you could have carried out the crime yourself, it points to the fact that someone else was involved. Someone else? Counsel, are you suggesting... Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection!
An accomplice now? Well, then I presume you're prepared for what's to come. Now that you're accusing not only this witness, but someone else of the most serious of crimes. If these accusations turn out to be false, then make no mistake. The prosecution will demand an equally serious punishment for your slander. Well, counsel, do you intend to pursue this course and formally accuse another party of involvement in this matter? What do I do here? At the moment, this is a little more than a hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Drebber had an accomplice or even if he really is the culprit here. One way or another, I have to make a position clear, as a lawyer. So what's my stance going to be? Did Drebber have an accomplice or not? Oh, let's go. He has one. The defense is ready to name Mr. Drebber's accomplice. Somehow, the two birdcages must have been switched. Everything points to that. Yet, according to the coroner's report, that's not a possibility. But that inconsistency itself is a clue. Counsel? Oh, my lord! You have received the stark warning already. If you are nevertheless determined, then I must now ask you to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. Who do you claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice? Oh, I know. Got it. Yes. Oh. Hold on. The newest member of our team, Courtney Sith.
Take that!
The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, my Nipponese friend? Surely fear doesn't bind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in this courtroom against me. I'm sure it will be alright, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Mr. Sato. The enemy always appears larger than life, but you'll appear exactly the same to the enemy. Alright then, here goes. You kept us waiting long enough. Now your answer, Council. Now! The person who colluded with Mr. Drebber in order to carry out this wicked crime is Scotland Yard's coroner, Dr. Courtney Sith. What the blazes are you talking about, Dr. Sith? The head of the forensic investigation team and the coroner who conducted the autopsy on the victim? We know there were 2 bird cages, so who could have carried out the switch to complete the illusion? The accident happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators and the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way for the forensic investigation team. When else could the switch have occurred? It can only have been in that team's presence. It's essential that the court determines exactly what happened following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Sith be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify. You've got a nerve, lad. Standing up there dragging the Yard's name to the mud. I didn't mean to. This guy was sleeping. I know the woman very well. There's no better room worker out there. I was gonna say better deed. How dare you call her a criminal? My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there's another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once. A grave problem? Oh my word. Who do you claim acted as the victim's doppelganger? What? Certainly, if the birdcage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, that cage must also have contained the body. And yet, no missing persons or accidental deaths of anyone even remotely resembling the victim have been reported. Which means there was no one dead or alive who could have fulfilled the role of a body double for Mr. Asman. That's true. If my argument is that there were 2 bird cages, then there must also have been 1 person inside each. But I don't know if I've got an answer to this yet, have I? What can I do to reveal how the body double stunt was achieved? Name someone, present evidence. Nothing at the moment. Present evidence. Very well, the defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting evidence that reveals the true nature of Mr. Asman's body double. Isn't it the wax model or whatever? Good gracious, evidence! I do hope this is a filibustering I do hope this isn't filibustering, counsel. The court's expecting a name. If you think you have relevant evidence, present it now. The body double and the birdcage were hiding inside the balloon that was floating above the stage, which means that any witnesses would only have seen them from 60 feet away. So who was it that appeared out of the explosion some 18 meters above the spectators? Aha! The body double inside the second birdcage was... Alright, let's find it. And... go.
Take that!
We know that the victim, Mr. Asman, was in the birdcage that was situated inside the kinesis machine on stage, and therefore he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contained something else. What's been described as a body double, which is what fell from the sky and crashed into the Crystal Tower. Yes, Counsel, according to your somewhat elaborate version of events. And that body double inside the second birdcage was in fact... It's alright, Mr. Naruhodo. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself, and come out with it. Thank you, Mr. Sato. I needed that. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was... as unbelievable as it may seem, that thing there.
Objection!
Open your eyes and look into mine, my Nipponese friend. Now tell me, what are you playing at? Stand firm now, Ryunosuke. This is the time to show your Japanese spirit. As the court will observe, this is a waxwork model. A model, in fact, of an infamous London murderer from 10 years ago, the Professor.
Objection!
Oh, hold on. Skipped that by accident. You started by indicting the leader of the forensic investigation team as an accomplice in this crime. And now you moved on to indicting waxworks? Yes, that's about the size of it. But why? And why this waxwork? It looks nothing like the victim. In fact, it could hardly resemble him less. What possible justification can you give? If you want to know why, ask Mr. Drebber. What? Just days before Professor Hairbrains performed his public demonstration, Mr. Drebber abducted this model from Madame Tussbells. Did you say abducted? And 2 days after the incident at the Great Exhibition, he returned it to the museum. Then, the timing. Is this true, Mr. Drebber? At first, I couldn't see why Mr. Drebber would have stolen the waxwork and then given it back again. But now, the reason is clear. He took it so that he could put it aside the second birdcage as a body double for Mr. Asman. Put it inside. Sorry, guys. Gah!
Objection!
Are you hearing this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Are you hearing the defense's astonishing proposal? That the witness fabricated this vast machine with the intention of deceiving some wretched scientist? That he did so in collusion with the country's finest coroner on the public stage in front of a vast audience? And that, to the effect of deception he used, was a waxwork model that in no way resembles the victim? Are we really to believe this far-fetched tale?
Objection!
Wait. Yes, if you put it like that, of course it sounds implausible. My lord! I need to speak, if you please. Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Myself and my colleagues have reached an agreement. Very good. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your leanings for the court to hear now.
Guilty!
Oh, come on! What?
Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty!
Kill me!
The lag. So, as indicated by the foreman, the jury has reached a consensus. I knew that was going to happen. We shall get through this, Mr. Naruhodo, as we always do. And uncover some new truths along the way, I'm quite sure. Yes, I agree. I'm going to have to appeal to the jurors as usual and see if I can persuade them to change their minds. The defense will now embark on a summation examination. Are you and your fellows ready to proceed, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very well. In that case, I ask you now to state clearly for all present to hear the grounds on which each of you has decided that the defendant is guilty of the crime of which he is charged. The jurors' contentions. Alright guys, I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. This is getting real exciting again, guys, and I can't believe we got a guilty verdict immediately, so it looks like we have to change their minds once again. So we'll continue this in the next one. So thank you all for watching.